Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United at the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes now. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast. I'm your host Mike, and joining me today's panel we have Gabriel and Steve. We're going to talk about what can only be described as a dramatic match against Swindon and look forward to the visit of Doncaster Rovers on Saturday. Don't forget you can help with costs to support the show with one-off donations or regular subscriptions by joining us on Patreon. If you want to know more, look for the supporters page on the website, which is www.suttonpodcast.com. or drop me a message by email or at Sutton Podcast on the socials. Thanks to everyone who's supported in the past and who still are supporting. Really glad that you're all here to join us. It's going to be a good one, I hope. But we'll start off with the panel, and we're going to start off with Gabriel. Hello, Gabriel. Last time we spoke was actually quite a while ago. It was after the Papa John's defeat against Wimbledon. How have you been since?
I was thinking so, yeah.
Yeah. How have you been since?
It's been a while and a lot have changed. I'm glad with the transfer period in which we not only had got some good players, but we got rid also of the mistakes of last summer, which the club seems more keen to acknowledge than some supporters that were coming at my throat on forums when I spoke about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's clear that the relegation is out of discussion, though that's a very interesting fight there.
It is,
and, Gillingham looks able to save themselves and to put Hartlepool probably in the mist.
Into the list, yeah.
We can have a push for playoffs with the present form.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that in a moment. Yeah. Just going to say hi to Steve. Last time we spoke was after the Papa John's defeat at Wimbledon back in November. This isn't a cut and paste mistake. It is a coincidence because I had two late dropouts. Two dropouts, not late, sorry. And you stepped up today as a late call up. So how are you? And have you warmed up now?
Well, I've got the heating on, so yes, it's significantly warmer than it was last night. Stood on the terrace. But yeah, having got back from Dubai on Monday, it's been a bit of a culture shock. 5 months out in the desert, just trying to slowly readjust. Although I should probably try and adjust a little bit quicker. Really, we've got another game on Saturday.
Got another game Saturday, yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, before we kind of get into the match stuff, there is one little thing I just wanted to chat with you guys. You have both watched games on iFollow. I don't know how long you've been away for, Gabriel. Did you watch the Hartlepool match on iFollow? Or
Yes. Yeah.
So I know you and I had a quick conversation yesterday about it, Steve, about the commentary bias. But it has come up a few times with various different people. It's quite hard to pin down, let's say, what was so sort of bad about it. But I think it's potentially because of what they were going on about whilst Will was on the floor. I think that's what annoyed certainly me, and at that point everything they said just started to annoy me at that point.
Yeah, I think the problem you get with the iFollow coverage is it's not consistent across the board in terms of who each team uses for their commentary. You got quite a lot of sides who just use their local BBC commentators. So literally just dub the feed, dub the audio onto the video feed of the game. But obviously we've got our own sort of in-house SUFC TV who do our commentary probably charitable to say is to mix from opposition teams. But I think the problem you get with club commentary because particularly the BBC, where they're essentially catering to a very localized so ultimately they're playing to the gallery in many respects. So they usually the summariser will either be an ex-player or somebody in the media who is a fan. So you're naturally going to be sort of siding to your team. And if you've just seen an opposition player rolling around in the centre circle with players potentially crowding around the referee trying to get cards shown, then automatically your backs are up and you're going to be sort of fighting back against it. And then all of a sudden, I mean, especially given that Will Randall didn't happen so early in the game, all of a sudden the whole game kind of is shaped by that narrative of so I imagine their commentary when Craig Eastman got his 2 bookings was probably equally as ridiculous, but obviously from the at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So yeah, it's annoying for those of us who have had to watch on those feeds. It's slightly frustrating when you're kind of stuck with the opposition's commentary team. But it's basically a toss of a coin as to whether you're going to get one of the sort of raving lunatic ones who are sort of really sort of proper rabid and really into the game and sort of almost sort of like the old. Do you remember the old Sky Sports fan zone?
Yeah.
Like I remember that cup final where they had Tim Lovejoy commentating for Chelsea. It's only Ray Parlour as he then goes and curls it in the top corner.
Yeah.
And it's when you get those sorts, it's really irritating, and but you do genuinely then notice and really appreciate the guys who are actually really good at the job. And obviously it's not the same when you're watching on TV because you know you're getting a radio feed, but you can tell when they know that they're essentially the eyes of the audience. So they're having to describe what's going on, and actually those guys are actually really, really good, and those are the impressive ones, but they are few and far between them.
Yeah, I used to, years gone by, turn the telly off, the audio off on the TV, and have radio on in the background to kind of hear what was going on, because it used to be really, really good. But Gabriel, what are your thoughts on the comms mostly? I know there's always
first,
been
I would like to ask a question, because sometimes I hear the away commentary on the live stream, and if I look at the replay, I hear Sutton commentators. So is there a rule, or it's just random?
I think it's random. As far as I know, I think it's supposed to be, but it doesn't always work. If you do it through our club, you should hear ours, but sometimes it doesn't always work and it gets mixed. Yeah, and then but on the replays, I know it's often the home team's one. But I don't actually get the whole thing. I only ever really watched the replays.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and obviously I don't know what happens, or sort of an outside market going abroad. I have absolutely no idea. So you probably you pay your money and you get what you're given, and be grateful for it. You're a football fan, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly obviously some occurrences where the away team wouldn't send their commentators to the game.
Yeah.
So in those circumstances, you've obviously only got one choice. But certainly for anybody who might acquire their stream through mean, those ones will always take the home feed.
You've been told.
Apparently.
Yeah, allegedly, I think is the word to look for. But what do you think about the biased commentary, Gabriel? Is it
so
too
speaking
much,
first about Hartlepool? I think they're pretty desperate because they are now in a very strong position to get relegated.
Mm-hmm.
There's the team that are near them with the same number of points have 3 games in hand on them. I think it's Crawley, the one that is above them now. But it has 3 games in hand. Gillingham, it's on the rise. Colchester already evaded. So Hartlepool seems to be a very strong candidate to relegate together with Rochdale.
Yeah,
so they are pretty desperate. They are pretty desperate to win on Saturday as well. Maybe they lose a bit their objectivity.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so Steve got very short notice of this, but we're going to go into the ultimate team selection. So I'll be coming back. I'll start with you first, Gabriel, but just 1 second.
And now, one 125 years in the making. The Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. Sutton United all-time ultimate 11.
I went with a nice, short, catchy, punchy name there. I thought, what can we do? The hashtag is really long. Gabriel, we're going to start with centre midfield. I know you've only been supporting for a few seasons, so your pool of players is quite limited. Steve's not been much longer, but it's fine. It's your choice of your favourite player. So for centre midfield slot, who have you gone for?
So it's a pretty easy choice, though we have some good central midfielders. I think Ismond it's an obvious choice for everyone, in spite of what he did at Hartlepool just a few days ago.
And Newport. The only surprise at the Hartlepool one is it wasn't at Christmas time. I'm going to be honest. It's his birthday, Christmas time is normally when Craig wants some time off.
Yeah.
And Steve, who have you gone for?
Mine only goes back a couple of extra years, but I've gone for Nicky Bailey. And obviously there's a slightly extended thing with him. Obviously started at the club as a youngster as well, and then came back later in his years. But I remember like the first season I had a season in that. In the Conference South, and it was Bailey and Eastman as our central midfield, and that was just an embarrassment of riches compared to what everybody else was throwing out on the pitch that season.
No, absolutely perfect. We'll put them.
I must say that I've seen Bailey playing actually in the game against Leeds, and I was impressed with him too. And I googled him, and I saw that he played a lot at Championship level before coming back to Sutton.
He didn't quite make the Premier League. I can't remember who he was supposed to be now, but there was talk of a move, and it just didn't come through. And that would have been a nice little story for us to be like, yeah, he's played at every level.
Well, I think when he was at Middlesbrough, they just missed out on the playoffs as well.
That might have been it. Yeah. So perfect. Okay. We'll put them up, and now for right midfield, winger, whichever you want to go for. Gabriel, who would you like to go for?
Again, I'm limited in the choice because I've basically only seen Ajiboye on this position.
Yeah, still not a bad shout.
Yeah, I don't know who played against Leeds. Who was the right midfielder that time?
Probably Rory Deacon.
I was going to say it was Rory, wasn't it?
I think Rory would have been on the left that day because it was him that won the penalty.
Okay.
Which would have been which was on the stand side of the penalty area.
Yeah.
So he'd have been on the left that day, I think.
Yeah.
But he could play. He played a few games certainly played quite a few games on the right.
Yeah.
Was Cadogan playing that day, mate?
So should know really, shouldn't we? It's saying we played 5 across the middle. We had Biamu playing left. So we had Eastie, Bailey, and May in the side. Adam May in the side. Yeah. Biamu on the right, sorry, and Deacon on the left. Okay. But who's your choice for the right-hand side?
Ajiboye would have probably been mine over the same period. But I think Deacon's a shout. But I think I'm probably gonna go with a huge dose of recency bias and go with Will Randall. Even though I think he's probably played more games on the left, he is still right-footed. So I'm claiming that as legitimate, and he is now a right winger.
You bought him on the right.
Yeah. So I think he's been quite a surprising one for me because I think in the promotion season in the National League, he kind of played in little fits and starts. Never quite convinced, I don't think, and I suspect he was probably one of the players that most of us probably thought, well, he'll get game time off the bench as and when we need it, but he's not likely to be a key player. And actually, he's probably the guy that stepped up the most.
Yeah.
In the last, certainly this season, before Ajiboye came back on loan, he was the guy that was playing out wide and was the one that you could absolutely rely on. I think top scorer as well.
I think he is now. Yeah.
So goals from out wide. It's not a particularly sort of exciting sort of move that he's got where he cuts in off the wing and bends it to the far corner, but it's damn effective.
Yeah.
Let's be fair. There are players at higher levels who have done exactly the same and made very good careers out of themselves, like the likes of Arjen Robben and people like that who've kind of perfected that art really. And he's been excellent for good 2 years now.
Yeah, I know Sunday League isn't exactly the same at all, but when I was dealing with Sunday League, and all they said is that's all they've got. It's like, okay, well then stop it. If you know what we're going to do,
if it's that easy to stop, then you wouldn't get any results out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not any way, shape, or form a good player, but every time I look, I think, just keep him on his left. Just keep him on his left. Okay, don't let him do what he wants to do. That's fine. Crack on. Excellent. Right, I'll put them out to the votes, and we will see. And yes, it is just.
We will obviously get abuse for not considering somebody from like 1987 or something.
I will get people not considering someone from 1987 because it's my format. So and I'm quite happy with it because my stock answer is, yeah, you come on and you can put your challenge in and then you can decide who you want in there. Because what's going to happen, I don't know if you've missed it, Steve, but what's going to happen is when I've got my 11 is the next time people come on, it'll be you can then say, right, I want to nominate this player instead of that player. And then you put your case forward to replace
substitutions.
People. Yeah, absolutely. So we will see how it goes. But we've got a back four at the moment of Simon Downer, Jason Goodliff, Jamie Collins, and Tony Raines. And I'm just thinking,
is Downer in goal?
No. We've got Gary McCann in goal. There's not much pace there, I'll be honest. A couple of pacey forwards and we're in trouble. But hey, it's fine. It's all on paper.
Defend deep, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. The first yard's in your head. Hopefully the first 3 yards are in your head. But anyway, we'll have a quick chat about the match. Lineup. Lee Angle was dropped to the bench after his great game on Saturday. Matt's interview afterwards said, yeah, if he scored 4 goals on Saturday, he still would have gone onto the bench because that was always the plan. We obviously sometimes forget that he knows what he's doing and he's paid to pick the team and we're not. And a return from Kobe with Louis apparently still not fit. We were sort of led to believe it was just a one-off game, but apparently the knee is still not better. Obviously no Eastie, no Will, who had a scan, but is heavy bruising, so he should be hopefully okay by Saturday, according to our spy Jenny, who obviously interrogated him and found out what was wrong with him. And probably the only real surprise was Sam over Rob. I don't know if Rob's still carrying a knock, but Sam definitely played well enough. But what were your thoughts on the lineup? We'll start with you, Gabriel.
Well, we were obviously pretty stretched. We had to move Boldeva field. So for this, we had to move Kizzy to the right back. And I don't know about Nilsson, if he was valid for 90 minutes or not, and if Hart was chosen over him or was chosen because there was no option. It felt like basically there was no option in the defense and midfield, the only reserves being for the offensive.
Mm-hmm. We are a bit top heavy with strikers at the moment. What were your thoughts ahead of it, Steve?
Yeah, I think speaking of Sam Hart specifically, I think his performance on Saturday at Hartlepool kind of made Matt's selection quite easy. I think because obviously Rob Milsom's coming back from a knock. He's of an age now where it's probably going to take a little bit longer for him to recover, and there's no need to throw him straight back into the starting lineup if you've got another guy who's fully fit and is up to speed and is playing well. There's no and you can also have like a pure sort of meritocracy there where if you play well, you keep the shirt. Mm-hmm. And that introduces competition for places. You're going to increase the standard of the first 11. So yeah, that was fine. I think Angol was. I think there was a lot of dissent from people, sort of in the bar and stuff when they heard the lineups. But at the end of the day, he's not played very much in the last 6 to 8 months or so.
Yeah.
And I mean, he ploughed a lone furrow up front for long periods of that game on Saturday, didn't he? When we had 10 men, and he put in a hell of a shift. And I think it was absolutely fine that. I mean, as Matt said, it was presumably pre-planned that he was only going to start one of the 2 games, and we've got enough options that we can rotate a little bit now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Angol does bring more of a goal threat than basically any of our other front men now, as demonstrated by the last 2 games. I mean, the finish for his goal at Hartlepool, where he sat the keeper down and just dinked it over him. I don't think any of our other strikers would have even considered that as the way to score that one-on-one. Mm. And I think it kind of just shows the sort of level of player that we're now starting to be able to attract to the club.
Yeah.
That now you've got a quality that we've never been able to kind of employ before. But I would imagine that once he's fully up to speed, I mean, obviously Omar getting booked last night means he's now on for a 2-game ban. So maybe Angol is now going to be the guy in possession. And whoever plays up alongside him is going to be that's the one slot that gets rotated a bit now. It does mean that, I mean, Omar, are you going to play Omar and Angol up front together? I don't think that's necessarily a bad combination. Like two big guys gives the opposition double trouble in that sense. And Angol's not slow.
No.
So it's not as if you're taking out any pace or the sort of quick movement in behind. So yeah, I think that's in terms of last night. I think the lineup was kind of more or less what given who wasn't available. I think it was more or less what we expected.
I think people's thoughts were, well, Gabriel Sutton was surprised at Lee Angol signing for us, because I think he's was thinking we signed him as an Omar replacement, convinced Omar's.
He's got a weird fascination with Omar, hasn't he? It's extraordinary that.
But then he said he didn't feel that he plays like Omar, and maybe Matt just sees him as a combination of both and can do either role. So we'll see, or who knows, we might be moving away from it. We don't. But I think he'd give a shout out to Killian, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Killian, if not starting, then certainly coming on. But for the first sort of 15 minutes or so, or 10 minutes or so, we were okay. Then they scored a goal that looked like it was in slow motion. It just looked like everyone stopped, and I couldn't work out. And it's like,
we were very static, and they passed it through the gaps very well, didn't they?
Yeah, and then obviously we had no Johnny Williams to take the piss out of us, so they gave it to Charlie Austin instead. Which we said, "Oh, go on then, have a goal." So, what were your thoughts at that point, Gabriel, when we were sort of 1-0 down and we weren't playing so great?
Well, we all know our history with Swindon, so there were no reasons to be optimistic. Yeah.
Can I just hang on? Can I just say, before the game, I did say we were going to win. I said it was going to win 4-2, but I said we were going to win.
Yeah. Well, after the disappointment at Hartlepool, we start with the 1 goal down in the first 15 minutes. So no, I wasn't optimistic, I must admit.
But yeah, Steve, we were kind of we were there watching and kind of pointing out that a few different players were not having their best game in a Sutton shirt. We weren't doing great for a little while, were we?
First half was scrappy on our part. As you say, first 10-15 minutes we were probably on top, and I think their goal was probably against the run of play. But once that went in, suddenly their confidence grew. They were pinging it around nicely, playing nice little interchanges. I do kind of think the Harry and Ali Smith central midfield pairing is a little bit too attack minded. Mm-hmm. There's not quite enough sort of know-how in terms of keeping an eye on what's going on over your shoulder. And they exploited that quite a lot. They had quite a lot of space in between the lines there in the first half. We kind of nailed it at half time and shut those angles down a little bit better. But certainly first half we were unable to kind of really get an awful lot going. But we also didn't really let Swindon have that many chances. They were kind of neat and tidy up until they got towards the edge of the penalty area. But I think Jack Rose has basically had one save to make. That sort of scuffed header just before half time, where he could have probably thrown his cap on it. It arrived at him in such slow motion that that was relatively straightforward for him. So yeah, we weren't great, but we the key thing in that situation is always just to make sure you keep yourself in the game up until half time. You can then sit in the dressing room, have a chat about it, and regroup and decide how you're gonna attack the second half.
No, Stephen, when we were there, we were trying to work out when the subs were going to come, and we were kind of saying about 65-ish minutes. But Gabriel, it was about the 60-minute mark. We suddenly just started playing well. I started getting a bit like, we're never going to win this. So I just started taking random videos of various different moments of the game I was like, right, we're going to TikTok something out of this. And we just started playing well at that point, which I think possibly delayed the subs by a little bit. Because I think Matt was like, well, we'll see how this pans out. What were you sort of thinking about the hour mark just before the subs, Gabriel?
Well, I feel that we started to pressure them short after the beginning of the second half. We have a very good situation in which we rebound the ball through Bugil in their area, and Ali Smith, I think, is in a very good position to have a shot that is at 52nd minute. That
Okay.
seemed to be a great chance.
Didn't remember. I was probably getting told off about something like it.
So I felt that the pressure was on almost from the beginning of the second half. We were over them. They were only randomly passing the center of the pitch with the ball at their feet, and it was a pretty good game, pretty good pressure. I don't know if it was because they were in a bad form. They are at 3 consecutive. Their commentators were quite pessimistic. They were all the time saying we have to be careful. We have to not to allow Sutton to play, and they didn't at any second seem to be thinking that they can beat us with 2 or 3-0 to score another goal. And
Jody Morris was certainly saying they were found wanting after the match.
They just looked knackered in that second half. I think the key difference. I mean, you're right that it was kind of on from the hour mark onwards that we basically just dominated more or less completely. First 15 minutes was kind of even, but we created a few sort of openings. I've just looked at the stats. Actually, we had 8 blocked shots in that second half, which is fairly extraordinary. So it kind of showed the sort of desperation of their defence to sort of throw their bodies in the way of everything, largely because they weren't in the right position in the first place. Yeah. But they got away with it up until 5 minutes from the end. But it was noticeable. You could tell that they were really struggling because Charlie Austin in the second half was basically trying to drop back into midfield just to get on the ball. Because I mean, as much as I dislike the guy. He's clearly still a very good footballer, and probably if he'd kept himself in slightly better shape, wouldn't be playing at this level at this stage of his career. But so he was just head and shoulders above everybody else in the Swindon shirt. But yeah, where he was dropping so deep, they then had no outlet. And it meant that we could then push up another 10, 15 yards, squeeze the space, because you know that Rose is sweeping everything up behind. They've got nobody that's quick enough to run into that space, and we were able to put a hell of a lot more pressure on them. To be honest, we probably should have done a little bit better with a couple of the half chances we had earlier in that second half. But the key was having quality to come off the bench that wasn't actually any weaker than the players that were replaced in the starting 11. Which meant that we had the combination of the same performance level, but also fresh legs, and that was the difference really, that we were able to go to the final whistle, whereas at the start of the season we were shipping late goals left, right, and centre. And I mean, it's something that I've mentioned when I've been on here before, that was a genuine concern at the start of the season, when last season we made do with Dundo as the only guy doing the fitness work. This season we've brought in dedicated team of fitness and strength and conditioning guys, and it looked like we'd kind of gone backwards in that sense at the start of the season. But they've clearly worked really hard over the winter. And we're now the team that's got the legs to see these games out.
Two little things there. One, should have mentioned you didn't like Charlie Austin. Didn't he mention it at all?
I've kept that one quiet.
And two, a nice little plug there for the chat I had with Matt a couple of days ago. It was a bit sort of rushed out because I missed out on all my timings doing interviews and stuff. He went on a lot about the fitness and the stamina of the players. We did discuss the late goals as well. Which ironically we did say, well, hopefully we're over that and we'll start scoring a few late ones ourselves. And hey, presto, the next day we start scoring some late goals. But we even had a chance, and me with my little camera, I was very, very pleased. I caught our only decent effort where Matt Dennis unfortunately slipped, like everyone else kept slipping over on the pitch last night, hit the bar. Then I tweeted that. Then 2 minutes later I went, oh yeah, look, we've gone even closer. And scored Lee Angle's goal, and then about 2-3 minutes later I then tweeted, oh right, okay, so we won. I don't know if you saw, but I've just found a Swindon vlogger. They took a video and they got the goal, which was a foul on the keeper, from a completely different angle. Now we both watch it obviously from the same side, and the cameras are on the same side of Gabriel, so you would have seen it from the same side. It definitely looked like a foul where we were. We were a bit surprised that it was allowed to stand, but from the other end, looking face on, it just looks like the keeper came and basically dropped the ball. It doesn't look like a foul at all, which is the referee's view.
I feel that it could have been given as a foul and nobody would have argued. The hand of Ben goes somewhere towards the neck of the keeper. But what also the commentators from the away side said was that the keeper didn't do enough to make it look as a foul.
That's fair. Yeah.
Doesn't even try to hit the ball. He just leaves his hands down and expects to be. And I remember a game that we had last year at Leeton when they scored by one of their players pushing Luis John into Dean Buzanis, and nothing was given. And a very obvious push. This is British football. Yeah.
Well, I mean, at the start of the season, there was, I can't remember what the actual thing was, but they did say the goalkeepers weren't going to get as much protection as they have in the past. But Steve, you said to me, if that had been given as a foul, no one would have cried about it too.
Oh, we'd have been annoyed because we'd have been denied the late equaliser we probably deserved. But I think you kind of step back and look at it, and I think ultimately once the keeper's feet leave the ground, if you're then going in to challenge him, any contact on him can send him in any direction. So refs tend to clamp down on it and sort of they don't look particularly favourably on it. But I think ultimately the keeper has probably just made the wrong choice. If he punches that, he clears the danger. The ball goes 20 yards up the field, and that goal doesn't happen. But because he's tried to catch it, despite the fact that he knows he's going to be under pressure, presumably because he just assumes the ref's going to help him out, even if he doesn't take it cleanly. He's obviously dropped it under a bit of pressure, and I mean, Angol, to be fair, has still got a fair amount to do. I didn't quite appreciate that from the angle that we stand on the curve. But watching it back on the TV, there's a lot of bodies in the way, and he still somehow managed to hit it through all of them into the corner. So yeah, great finish, great bit of anticipation just to be there at the right time.
Yeah. At that point, we're obviously thinking we've just rescued a point. This is marvellous. We've got a late goal. We've got a point, and it all happens again. So, what did you think on Ali's goal, Gabriel?
Oh, yeah, it was great. It reminded me of the moment with Port Vale. Port Vale in our first game in the AFL2.
Oh, it was last season, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's 87th minute. We have been they have been the best team for 87 minutes. They are up 3-2 and we score. And I see the guys just running and taking the ball from the opponents and running with it at the center field. And I'm saying, why the hell? And I'm saying to a mate that was near me, why the hell? We should be happy with 3-3. It's fantastic to have. They were up 2-0 at the beginning. They were playing excellent football. They were the most impressive team that I saw last year at Gander Green Lane. And we score again. Yeah.
Well, this is what Lee said in his interview. He said that when it went in, he had the ball and he turned around to some of their players, we're going to win there. Which again, I think it might be what you were alluding to earlier, Steve, that just that little bit of extra quality player going, we are going to win this. Come on.
I think they could probably just sense it because they were. I mean, this Swindon side is quite a young team all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. They let go of 3 or 4 experienced players in January, which doesn't seem to have gone down particularly well with the fan base. And yet they brought in Charlie Austin, and you kind of think, well, if you bring the player like him in, surely you're surrounding him with other good players who are going to be able to. You're then looking at a promotion tilt, and yet they brought him in and they've let their captain go and 2 or 3 other players, and brought in basically a load of kids who like just just the physical stature of them. They're a small team now, and all of a sudden we're the team of giants. Whereas in the past we've obviously been bullied out of games before. And yet now we're the ones doing the bullying and being the ones that are able to go the full game and nick it at the end.
I just wanted to say that I'm coming from a country in which if a team is down 1-0 with a quarter of an hour to go, they already think we've lost the game. Let's think about next week. And I never cease to be impressed with what happens in British football. They still have 2 minutes of the extension time. They are down 1-0, and they say, "Oh, we can still win this. Come on,
get it. Yeah, we'll nick something here."
And so many goals scored after the 90th minute.
On that note, did you see there was a Ryman League game last night where I think Bowers and Pitsy were 3-0 up with 8 minutes to go and lost 4-3.
It's our ex-player, wasn't it? Kearney.
Oh, of course it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he scored.
Wingate and Finchley, isn't it?
Yeah. I wasn't entirely sure. I wasn't sure if he scored 2 or 3, but their goalkeeper scored as well, I think.
Yes. Yeah, he got the equaliser, I think, the keeper.
Yeah.
So the keeper scores, and he's not even scored the last goal.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, they tweeted out earlier, "Is this the best comeback in history?" It's quite a good thread because there's loads of matches people are posting up there. Well, this was a good one. This was a good one. So yeah. Great night. Obviously, I tweeted out it's a weird hobby that we've got. We weren't very good for long periods of time. Then we were good, and we all went home delighted. Or 2,000 odd people went home delighted. Probably weren't quite as delighted as we were. But would like to know your choices of player of the day, if you don't mind, gents.
Now watch me do my dance. I'm the player of the day.
So if we start with you, Steve, who's your first choice for player of the day?
I'm going to go with the score of the equaliser, the Angol. Just the impact that he had off the bench. You can just see he's just a cut above kind of any. I mean, I love Omar, but Angol's just a cut above in terms of the quality that he brings, kind of his all-round game, and is sort of, you can just tell that he's played at a higher level.
Perfect. Gabriel, your first choice?
It's hard to make a choice. I'm not very, very convinced of it, but I would put Joe Kesey because he sent a few good crosses, one leading to the first goal.
Yeah, just going to say, I wrote down Joe with a great big question mark because there was periods of the game where it was like, Joe, what are you doing? But I think he had a hand.
First half especially.
Yeah, I think he had a hand in both the goals and the hitting of the bar as well. So it's like, okay, does it work? But that's grand. And Steve, your second choice.
I'm going to go the other side of the pitch and go for the other fullback, Sam Hart. I thought he was very good, and it gives Matt that nice little, as I said earlier, it gives him that nice little cushion. He doesn't need to rush Rob Milson back, other than if he's desperate to have someone else on set pieces. Enzio's okay, but he's a lot less consistent. Milson gives you a lot better there, but no, Hart in what he needed to do, he was excellent on the overlap. Some of the crosses he put in were really good as well, caused them a lot of problems, and defended quite well. All round good game, I thought.
I did see someone shout earlier for potentially getting Rob at left back and pushing Sam forward as well, and Dave on the other wing, but not 100% sure on that. But yeah, could probably do it. We sign players that can play everywhere. And Gabriel, your second and the final choice.
Let's go with Ali Smith. He scored an important goal, and he was also present in other occasions.
Yep, perfect. So that is going to break Jack Rose's streak. I think he's won 3 in a row, but he had a good game as well. But
he had a very important save in the quarter to go immediately after the change. When Ben Goodleaf loses a ball.
But I couldn't keep going. Yes, well done, Jack. There is still no prize, so at least someone else gets the idea there might be a prize. Excellent. So very, very quickly on to Doncaster Rovers. It's 10th versus 9th, so it's actually quite a big game. I spoke to Aaron Chandler earlier on, and I'm going to slot that interview in here, so you guys will have to actually listen to it now to hear that bit of the interview. And joining me now is Aaron Chandler from Doncaster Rovers, amongst other things. So, first of all, Aaron, how are you?
Really good. This season's been a great season for me personally in terms of the content being created. Nominated for 3 awards from the Real EFL, so really chuffed about that. And it's just been a fantastic year. The season's been mixed. We're back on form now, but for me personally, it's been just a great season.
Well, I was going to try and squeeze in a cheesy joke there and say, well, wouldn't you say it's been a bit of a roller coaster this season?
That's probably the best way I'd describe it.
To segue into your BBC appearance. So give us just a quick little thing on that. How was that?
It was fantastic. It was sort of like a 24-hour in advance thing. Everyone at the BBC was so welcoming and helpful. The welcoming as one of the family, and it was just a wonderful experience. And maybe, just maybe, not the last time.
Oh, excellent news! Excellent news. So the roller coaster thing, where did that come from? Is that something you've always been interested in, or?
Yeah, I had another channel sort of last 3 years called Coaster Chow, and that was on the verge of 3,000 subs and 1 million views. So I decided to make the decision this season to push the 2 content together into the Chow channel. So the channel becomes more of a business as well as a channel. So I'm really pushing it now into making it a full-time career. So to put the content together on one channel was something in the works for a while.
Excellent. So back to Doncaster Rovers. So we played you at the start of the season, and done us.
Looking very good.
Yeah, it was. I think it started a little terrible run that we had. We were just conceding late goals for just no idea why. I actually spoke to Matt Gray a couple of days ago and was, what went on? He's like, I still don't know what went on. I have no idea. But how's it been for you since? It's been sort of, I've looked at the last few results. It has been literally up and down.
Well, we've won our last 3 games. We are near the playoffs, as far as I'm aware. I think looking at the table, I think you're 9 and we're 10. Yeah, we're 9th. We are 2 points away. Stockport and Bradford drew, I think. So, no, they both won. So we're still hunting them playoffs. But won the last 3 clean sheets, 2 2-0s and 1 1-0. I think it's been good. I think confidence is being instilled into the lads. I think that the club seems to be definitely getting it right on the pitch. Off the pitch is a different story because, there's been a lot of cries about the ownership and, we had the owners event just a couple of nights ago and there seemed to be a lot of disinterest from our chairman in the way he was presented, talking over people when some people were asking questions. There seemed to be a lot of slouching, disinterest. So that kind of, really angered the fan base a lot. And, aside from the stuff off the field, I think on the pitch, we're getting it right at the moment. So, should be interesting to see how the run goes for the rest of the season. But we've got a few tough games coming up that's going to really test our consistency at the moment.
Yeah, because we've obviously had a fairly bad start of the season. We've had quite a lot of injuries to key players in key positions and backup players to that position as well being injured. So we're to shuffle the pack quite a bit, but we seem to be coming through that a little bit. I think, I know Eastie's going to still be suspended because he got sent off at Hartlepool, and I think Omar now is going to be suspended as well because he picked up another yellow card yesterday. So that must delight you guys. But on the other hand, we didn't start playing last night until the 82nd minute. That's not really true. We were doing all right from sort of 65 onwards, but then we came back and we won from a goal down in the last couple of minutes. So hopefully it's going to be a good game. But what have been the highlights of the season for Doncaster? Not you. I know some of yours. But what was the highlights for Doncaster?
In terms of highlights for Doncaster, I'd say that if it wasn't for the unbeaten run at the start of the season, we'd be much lower than we were. Because, we had that sort of 10, 12 game period when we were just unbeaten and no one was coming away from the stadium saying we played well. but we got results. And sometimes in League Two, that's what you need, results. In terms of highlights on the pitch, I'd say there isn't really a lot of standout moments. I think if we went to last season, which is a horrible season when we got relegated, I could still pick out an individual highlight because it was the win over Sunderland in front of 40,000, telling them to shut the hell up. That was an individual highlight. But for me, I don't think there's many individual highlights this season. I think it's just been a collective mixed bag of results. If I could pick out individual funny moments, I mean, last night against Barrow, floodlight failure. I think it'll probably come up on the EFL and ITV tonight. But no, there was about 10, 15 minutes when like some of the floodlights went off, and I think we all just stood up, put our touch on our phones and just said, "We're Doncaster Rovers, we'll play in the dark." So that was quite funny. That was a nice individual moment. I think Tomlin's red card was a bit stupid at the start of the season. So, so I always find that funny. I think that Ravenhill's tackle on Osadebe at Bradford still lives in the minds of Bradford fans, still haunts them to this day. So I think 25th of February, that's going to be a very interesting fixture. No Ravenhill guys, so don't worry. So there's not a lot of individual moments on the pitch compared to last season with Sunderland, but definitely a few funny moments and standout moments for wrong reasons.
Lovely. And what are your thoughts on Saturday?
It's going to be interesting. Sutton play Sutton play all right football, and I think Sutton in the past have either got something out of the game or they've scraped a win. So obviously we scraped a win last time, so I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this one. I think it sounds like you guys do all right from 65 minutes onwards. So at the moment, so I think that if we can from 65 minutes until the end, it might just be a case of trying to weather the storm. There may be moments where we will pressure you and we'll compact you and we'll put you on the back foot again. And then from the 82nd minute onwards, again, it might be a case of weathering the storm, grinding out the result, which our defence has done. We did that last night against Barrow. We had to really weather the storm for a good sort of 10, 15 minutes in that second half, 15, 20 minutes in that second half. So, we've got to really, weather the storm. But I think with Olowu being back in that defence, I think it's helped a lot. And it's going to be interesting to see what we do on Saturday in terms of our defending. So I think it's going to be interesting. Do I think we'll win? Probably, but I think that Sutton aren't going to give us an easy game. If any Rovers fans are thinking Sutton's going to give us an easy game, just ignore that and throw it out the window, because Sutton will give us a good game.
Hopefully players think it's an easy game. I don't care about fans. But we had this with strangely Gillingham. When we were up there, we didn't do very well, and they got a last minute winner. And then they came to ours. We played a bit better. They played much better, but we got a last minute winner. Yeah. And Matt's point was actually both games should probably have been a draw, but actually both teams are better off because we're both got 3 points instead of walking away with both 2 points. So is a loss that bad? So hopefully we'll do that to you. And as for winning games without playing well, I think Leyton Orient have done remarkably well this season. Yeah, because even their fans are saying, "I'm not really sure what's going on," but you never know. I mean, I think it's down to about 12th. Anyone could put a little run together and do a sneak into the playoffs towards the end of the season. So it's very, very tight in there. Are you coming down yourself?
Yes, I will be. Yeah. So I'm in talks with Sutton United at the moment to allow the camcorder in. I was talking to them about pitchside access, but that was sort of confirmed that won't be happening. So, like Swindon. So we're just talking at the moment about trying to get all the access in with the equipment. So hopefully good news on that front. And I'll be there.
Excellent, lovely. Well, I hope you enjoy it. You've got to remember it's a non-league ground. We're catching up, but it is a non-league ground. So.
Now I'm looking forward to it. Brand new ground to tick off, brand new away fixture to tick off, and it's going to be really nice. I think, to be fair, Sutton United has been one of those Vanarama National League clubs that I've been keeping like a little eye on, like the Forest Greens, like the Harrogates, that have come up in the past, and this season, the likes of Woking and Boreham Wood, and Barnet are in the playoffs as well. So who knows? It looks like we might be visiting the Hive next season. So I mean, me personally, I wish it was still Underhill, but that's another story. But no, I think I've been keeping an eye on these clubs, and it's good to see new clubs coming into the Football League, and it's going to be very interesting to see that going forward, especially with the 3 up, 3 down starting, I think, next season or season after.
Yeah, I'm still not sure of that.
I think it gives more of an opportunity to the National League clubs rather than League Two.
Yeah, my opinion, and I think I would have had this opinion anyways, the teams, the ex-league teams, we should be looking at their voting record over the years to say, well, hang on, how did you vote when you were in the league, whether you want this or not? Never mind. We'll see. Thank you very much for your time. Let you crack on with your day, and we'll hopefully see you Saturday.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe to Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks, Jack. What are your thoughts and hopes towards that game? I know they've won the last 3, but looking beyond that, their form isn't the greatest. Steve, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously went up there early in the season, didn't we? And absolutely battered them, and still somehow contrived to lose in injury time. So, I mean, we owe them. I think that's fairly clear, and I would imagine that that will be the players' attitude as well. We're obviously strong at home. Not really sure what Donny's away record is like. I must admit, I've not looked at them in great detail, but they've been pretty up and down. Could see the last minute equaliser to Hartlepool last week. They've been, I mean, they started terribly in the season, despite a load of late goals, mostly against us. But then slumped, sacked the manager, and they're kind of just about starting to put something back together again. But they were really bad when we played them in August, and the results that they were getting were complete sort of false results based on what they were actually showing people. So yeah, I think we'll go into it with confidence, and I think it's a great opportunity. What, we 4 points off the playoffs?
Yeah.
There's a load of teams around there that are just really, really inconsistent. Anyone that can string maybe 5 or 6 wins out of 7 in the space of 5 or 6 weeks or so, all of a sudden you're then looking at maybe catching 3rd place. Because, I mean, Carlisle got absolutely battered at home last night. Northampton have stumbled in the last 2 months or so, and yeah, that 3rd place once again is kind of up for grabs, I think, and it's just a case of who's got the staying power, who's got the players that are going to stay fully fit for the season, who's going to get that little bit of luck as well. It just comes down to little fine moments, and we didn't quite get the rub of the green at the back end of last season, particularly in that Bradford game, and maybe this year is when we kind of get the rub of the green and it goes our way. We'll see. But no, I'm looking forward to Saturday. I think it's a game we can win. I think we should win.
Gabriel?
Yeah, I don't know much about Doncaster, but we are at home. We're in good form, so I think we're slightly favourites. And if we want to have a playoff push, we will need consistency. We will need to put on a few wins, one after the other. That's clear.
Well, after last night, I'm not always pessimistic, but I have been saying, yes, we played lots more games than everyone around us, or at the time we had. And after last night, the worst we can drop at the moment is if everyone wins their games in hands, and a few of them are like 3 games. But if everyone wins, the worst we can drop to is 12th, whereas a couple of weeks ago it was down to 17th. So things are definitely looking in the right direction. And yeah, a couple of wins. If we beat Doncaster, that's another team that we've... So yeah, I'm confident. I'm always confident. But hopefully we'll do it and yeah, get that playoff push, which makes me look really, really clever because I've been saying it for a few weeks, but I haven't actually put any money on it. Never mind. That's going to about do it for this episode. Thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget to let us know what you liked, what you didn't like. Follow, share, comment on all social media at Sutton Podcasts. Subscribe on your preferred platforms. Let me know what you think of the new platform that we're on. And until next time, I'm going to be joined by, it should be Claire, Chalmers and Joe. thank you to today's panel, Gabriel, Steve, and Aaron, who's going to be slotted in. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Something's just crashed really loudly in my kitchen, so that's probably picked up. Thanks for everyone's time. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
United! 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 United!